because in Germany they, as I was doing at Disney, you do like a rollout and do an introduction of yourself to the territories, and the people from Germany would come up to me and be like, this is the most popular Disney movie in Germany, and this is a very important film to us. I was like, I didn't understand that it was, to this day, I think is still the top performing.
28 million people saw that movie in the theaters.
So this is a film where we take some liberty with the material, but I try to stay true to the tradition of it because I'm a fan. But I feel much more pressure from Germany than I do even from my own family when it comes to this.
Well, yeah, you need to understand. Like, I was very nervous about it because I loved Chef. Kissing the Cook. That's what it's called in Germany, by the way.
Yes, Kiss the Cook. That's right.
And I was very nervous because I have to be honest. I wasn't really such a fan of Alice in Wonderland, Cinderella. Okay. And then when it comes to Jungle Book, it's like, really? Okay. And it turned out to be great. I think you did like an amazing job.
Did we hit all the points that the German fans are connected to, you think?
I wouldn't know. I just can say it by myself. And
Sure.
I was really, even using a female voice for Ka, I was like,
yes.
I don't know, but okay, I'm just going to run through.
Yeah.
I think that you introduced like the music to a great level, except like the second song with Louis. It was not as easy as you introduced it with Baloo, I would say. But
it's one of those where you have to, the thing was with the photoreal animals.
Right.
You can't just go for a kid's musical like the first one was. It's just seeing a real tiger trying to eat a kid is inherently terrifying. Like there's no way around it. You can't play that for laughs. And I remember, honestly, I grew up with the original. I remember it as being a lot scarier than it was. I remember that snake hypnotizing him was very scary to me. I remember the tiger stalking him in the grass.
Right.
Even the monkeys grabbing him was scary. It was all played for laughs from Walt's perspective.
Goosebumps just even talking about it. Right?
So even though it was all goofy and they did everything that they could, and Walt Disney clearly tasked his artists and story department with making it as light as possible, you're still dealing with the underlying world that Kipling created is a very dangerous version of the jungle, and the kid is at risk of being, of losing his life if he doesn't get back to the man village.
Well, the thing is, I wasn't really trying to spoil myself at any level, so I just went straight to the movie theater and just watched it. And you know what? I just knew afterwards that the entire thing has been animated. And that's really clearly the best thing I can tell about the animation.
That's great.
I was like, I have no clue.
So just to be clear, the only real live element here is the kid. And whatever little bit of set he's walking on, the entire jungle is generated. We filmed this in downtown Los Angeles on a stage. There are no real animals in the movie. They're all digitally, they're all digitally rendered. And that's part of the triumph of this, is that people can get drawn into the story and the emotion of it and not be distracted by the sheer magnitude of the visual effects that have gone into making this thing.
But it was you who said that actually this entire thing started with the voices. Once you knew that you had all these talents, then you would start. But then it must be kind of frustrating that all of this is kind of getting lost now that it's getting translated.
Well, that's the trick, is you don't, and it doesn't all come together honestly till close to the end of the process, where you take somebody like Christopher Walken and he plays King Louis, and you motion capture and you use video, multiple angles of video reference, and you give all of that to your keyframe animators, and they interpolate the data, and by the time they're done, it should look like you're seeing Christopher Walken performing this role. You should see the actor come through, and we design the characters to look like the actors as well. And so hopefully there's enough humanity and emotion through the voice and through the eyes to come out. But then also we tried to keep the movement of the animals realistic enough that it never felt like you're watching a cartoon, but you were looking at real animals moving.
Well, it makes totally sense. Also, I like the way that you thought of what Walt Disney would think about it, because I know that Walt Disney wasn't really so happy back then when he came out with Snow White, and he just got like an honorary Academy Award, and he just wanted to be considered that as a real movie.
Yeah.
Your approach on that one, like in the spirit of Walt Disney.
Yeah. And it's the same, I think, now. I don't think that visual effects movies are, although they change the game and they're groundbreaking, I think that people see them as entertainment for the masses, and not art. And I think what Walt Disney was doing was art. I think that what the innovations that he was able to bring to cinema, all films have benefited from. And honestly, at the time, in Snow White, he didn't win an Oscar, but they gave him a big Oscar with seven little
ones,
dwarves. And to me, that's the coolest Oscar that there's ever been. Like, to me, even though it may have been like an honorary mention at the time, there's something unique and special that speaks to how different that was, because at the time he did Snow White, they were laughing at him to think you could do a full-length feature that's animated. And he did things like multiplane, which is the 3D of its time, and rotoscope, which is the motion capture of its day, and the music, and the beautiful colors, and the visual effects, the special effects of the transformation of the queen into the witch. There was terrifying moments in laughter and music. And to me, that was the full picture. And that's why, honestly, you could pop in Snow White now, you could show it in a theater, and kids will be entertained, and you take something else from that era, from the 30s, and you put it on, and it doesn't age nearly as well. There's something timeless about the mythology and the folklore and the fairy tales that he combined with those techniques that make it into something that people remember vividly from their childhood, and they could continue to watch.
Well, then, thank you for your time. Thank you for a great movie. Thank you for Elf. Thank you for the Marvel revamping and for the food porn. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Kingsley, it's a pleasure again to see you, because of course you will not remember. I saw you the first time like in 99 or 2000, something like that, during the Berlinale. And ever since, of course, I've been like watching and observing your career, and I must say I admire your work ethic in terms of like, you're truly one of these actors where I feel like no matter what kind of role, what kind of genre, you're totally into it, like in a very inspirational way. So I'm gonna ask about your inspiration, because I saw you saying that you also admire the work of Kipling. So maybe you could explain us, what is it that makes the writing of Kipling so interesting to you that it also became such a success in form of these movies?
I think that Kipling is related to many of our great British writers, including Charles Dickens, who was, as you know, fascinated by the journey of the orphan through life. And what we have in Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, what we have in Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling, and also with Walt Disney, what we have is Pinocchio and Bambi and Dumbo. These are all stories about orphans. And it's a very tender, beautiful way of telling a story about a child, two children, because it involves the triumph of the child's spirit over adversity. And to be an orphan in a potentially hostile environment is a wonderful starting point for our story, because then all things are possible. And in our story, indeed, the little boy, beautifully played by Neil Setti, is threatened by certain animals and is protected by certain animals. Some animals even lose their lives protecting him, and he learns about this later. And Jon Favreau has taken Kipling's passionate link with his own son and Kipling's writing about what it is to be a young male and how the young male can transition into adulthood. And I think that Jon Favreau, as a great director and as a loving parent, as a great storyteller, has put the orphan at the center of this wonderful film. And all things connect into that particular dilemma of the orphan.
You know, you might understand. The thing is, like, when I heard that this movie is going to come out, of course I felt like my childhood is kind of threatened, because they're taking away what I have in common with this original movie. But then I was very pleased with it, and also realized, you know what, there's a new generation coming up, so let them have it anyway, if I like it or not, and I loved it anyway. How do you feel about it? As an actor has been like around like for so many times, if they would come up with saying like, you know what, Gandhi's the next thing that we're going to take on, is it that you feel keen about it, or to a certain degree shouldn't it be like, you know, it has been done, leave it that way and go for some new stuff?
So when I was starting out as an actor, I had the great fortune to join the Royal Shakespeare Company. And this year we will celebrate the 400th anniversary of Shakespeare's death. We as a culture.
Yeah.
And I played Hamlet for the Royal Shakespeare Company. I played Brutus in Julius Caesar. I played Othello in Othello. I played Frank Ford in Merry Wives of Windsor. I played Ariel in The Tempest. I played Demetrius in Midsummer Night's Dream. All of these plays have been done before by other actors. Do you think that that impeded me in any way from walking into the rehearsal room? Not at all. You reinterpret.
And in particular, what do you think, like in the minds of a Walt Disney, who definitely wanted to go beyond what people would take with these kind of things? Isn't it also like as an actor, because in the early years when the first computer animation came up, some actors felt like kind of threatened because of their trade might be lost. Now the computer generation, now it's your voice, but maybe even one day even the computer will be able just to provide that. You think that one day the necessity of having an actor at all is going to be there?
So what's beautiful about the combination of Rudyard Kipling and Jon Favreau and Walt Disney, whose resources and great studio have brought this story to life, is that it taps into that really great tradition in Disney, which was vigorously alive with films like Bambi, Pinocchio, and Dumbo. And these are all films that deal with the abandoned child that has to make its way through the world and find its way towards adulthood. So that these wonderful eternal themes, Favreau has gathered, and it's threefold really. The three major forces. There's Jon Favreau, there's Walt Disney's great tradition of loving children and protecting children, and recognizing how frail that journey is of the child, and of course there's the great Rudyard Kipling. So I think that this is a really wonderful distillation of all those great ingredients and sensibilities.
Well, I can say is again, I'm quite impressed. I never really thought of this often, Pied, and yeah, thank you so much for that insight. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Wow.